On today's episode, we're catching up on the latest in tools and technology in the accounting and finance world. Adam and I sat down with Hayden McHan to dive deeper into Alteryx. As you'll hear in this episode, Alteryx is so much more than a better Excel. It provides opportunities for companies to streamline processes and make quicker and more informed decisions. If you've ever been curious to hear what Alteryx can do for you or your organization, we invite you to sit down, listen in, and learn something new. From Embark's headquarters in Dallas, Texas, this is Accounting Matters, an accounting podcast powered by Embark. Hi, hello, good afternoon. It's great to be with each of you. I'm Zac Smith, the newest member of the Accounting Matters podcast team and Embark's resident Tampa market president. And I'm joined with my co-host, Adam Olsen, Embark's accounting advisory practice leader. On this week's episode, we'll be mixing up the accounting and reporting discussion and switching gears to accounting tools and technology, specifically discussing all things Alteryx with our resident subject matter expert, Hayden McHan. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Glad to be here with a bunch of first-timers, but I'm excited to have new faces in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to be here. But before we begin, the people want to know, have you seen the new Top Gun Maverick, and why is Iceman your favorite character?
The answer to the first part is no. No, it isn't really on my must-see list right now.
Oh, it's gotta be.
I do hear good things about it.
Have you seen the original?
I have seen the original. Okay. I am very old, so I have seen the original.
In theaters.
But yeah, I haven't made it out to it, so I will keep that in mind as a summer to-do.
Yeah, absolutely. Hayden?
I saw it on Thursday. Fantastic. I still think the original wins, but the new one was so much of the original that I got confused. Am I watching the original or the remake?
Love it.
So
Love it.
It was great.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, let's go ahead and kick things off with some of the basics. In the most simplest way you can you tell our listeners exactly what is Alteryx and what do you use it for?
Yeah, so Alteryx is very much like a better version of Excel. We all know Excel, most of us do. We all know what we love about it and what we hate about it. Anything repetitive that we do in Excel can be done in Alteryx a lot faster and with a lot less errors, less thinking involved, auditable, and very easy to document. If you're going to make a process in Alteryx, you think about it in more of a structured data format, like a data warehouse, rows and columns, rather than one table here and then another table off to the side. And you don't need to know coding, which is great. Because a lot of people think you have to know how to code. You don't. It uses a lot of the same syntax formulas that Alteryx uses. It makes it even simpler.
So why didn't they call it just better Excel?
I mean, if I was in charge of marketing, I probably would have, because I'm not creative.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I remember when I was leaving public accounting, it was kind of the new thing then was Alteryx, and they were trying to get people to start upskilling towards that. They were seeing where that was heading and the benefits of using Alteryx. So it's interesting now that it's an everyday talk, all different types of companies are using it. But maybe just more broadly, who do you actually see using Alteryx out there in the marketplace? Is it all sizes, all types of companies, industries? Who's a candidate for Alteryx?
Easiest way to say it, grab a handful of darts, throw it at a board of companies, and you're bound to hit a handful of them. So companies like PwC from the Big Four accounting space, McLaren Racing is a huge partner with Alteryx. Their name is plastered all over their F1 cars. Farmers Insurance, Amazon, 7-Eleven. Those are just a few of the companies that one quick Google search they'll turn up. But any size, the bounds that Alteryx can reach are the bounds that we put on it. So you can find a mom and pop accounting firm with 5 people using it all the way up to PwC.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You're telling me a handful of large corporations, Fortune 500 companies are all using this tool. But what are some reasons that an organization would even go down the path to use this tool? What are some of the problems that this tool specifically would solve? Some common use cases that an accounting and finance team would have value from knowing that those teams spend so much of their time in Excel. Mm-hmm. And is this tool something that could truly replace Excel?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, the bounds of Alteryx are really the limits that we put on it. But the easiest way to start with that discussion is, what do you do in Excel every single month, week, day, whatever frequency, where you're open up a file that crashes your laptop? I mean, we're all familiar with that. We want to chuck our laptop out the window.
That's when you go home.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's midnight on your audit, and you're like, oh, I can't believe this. You lost 5 hours of work.
Yeah.
So like if that is a problem that you face, that is a great launch point for Alteryx. If you're cleaning up a GL export every single week, you throw in the same VLOOKUP, you filter out the same rows that you know you don't need to look at. These are all super mundane, repeatable tasks that, yeah, they're easy to do, but why should I spend my time doing it? Like, I'm an expensive employee. At least I think I am. Like, that's not a good use of my time. That's not a good use of company time. I can free up that time to go do more important things. If you're bringing data in from a variety of data sources, so maybe a G Sheet, maybe you're connecting to an ERP using Spreadsheet Server right now. Maybe you need to connect into Oracle, SAP, S3, you name it. You can bring all these data sources in to one Alteryx workbook, get a combined output file with all of that data that's coming from these various sources. So it really helps democratize the data that your company has and give it to anyone who needs access to it.
Now, you talked about, though, that the system itself likes to have very structured data warehouse-like type data. What are some of the benefits to using this tool for companies that maybe have unstructured data, as well as companies that do have well-structured data? And are there hiccups or problems that these companies need to think through around that? Because to me, when I start to hear that, I immediately think I've got 5 different systems my company's working off of. The output for that raw data is going to be in various forms across each of those systems.
Yeah.
Is there a tool, a system, a process that we can use to help migrate that information all into a digestible piece of data that we can feed into Alteryx?
Yeah, so the great thing about ERPs is they're built to do one thing really well, and they're great at doing it. But a lot of times those ERPs don't talk to each other because you've got disparate data sources. So Alteryx can help bring that data in and structure it and blend it together in a way that makes it really easy for me to maybe look at accounting data blended with operational data and make sense of it. Whereas before, like, the operational data might not make sense to me because I don't know what I'm looking at. It helps create a data table that is the same format every time you run it. So you don't have to worry about, I'm going to run the report slightly different than Adam is, which is slightly different than Zac is. So you get repeatable data that's formatted consistently to help the organization better understand, what data do we even have? Because one of the things that I've learned is when you start figuring out what data sources people want to bring in, they don't know all the data that they have at their fingertips because it's not in a usable format. So Alteryx helps bring that data out, bring it to light, give it to people in a usable format.
All right, but Hayden, what you're describing, if I put back on my Big Four, my consulting, public accounting hat, you're describing this this unicorn, right? This unheard of tool that I never had the experience or opportunity to use back in my accounting days. Everything has to have a downside, right? They all have to have some sort of drawbacks. What are the limitations that Alteryx has? When is it not the right fit for organizations? Maybe not the right fit for an accounting and finance team? What are some things that we've got to be looking out that are going to be, X factors, red flags that we need to think about?
Yeah, I love Alteryx, but it definitely does have its downside. It's not going to be the end-all be-all solution. It's not going to make everything in the world perfect. Where Alteryx excels is taking a really structured task that is repeatable. It's going to stay consistent. Your data sources are structured. You need the same output. It's great for that. But if you have an Excel file that's going to constantly change the number of columns that it has, or the data is going to be in different spots every time you export it, it's probably not the best solution. And even when that happens, though, you can find bits and pieces of processes to help automate. So there was tasks in audit that we did where you need human judgment. Alteryx can't give that to you. Excel doesn't give that to you. You got to use yourself in there. But you can input Alteryx to maybe do the initial cleanup or the final formatting. And so you can piecemeal it into your processes.
Is it fair to say that Alteryx is a good fit for organizations that have a well-structured accounting and finance process? Maybe not the right tools, but at least the reports that they're looking at are the same month over month, year over year, quarter over quarter, and that process for looking, analyzing, and disseminating those reports is well structured.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Think about it like this. If you download your GL out of your ERP every single month, week, or whatever, Alteryx is great at cleaning that data up so that you can go plug it into Power BI, Tableau, whatever visualization software you do, because you know your ERP isn't going to just throw random columns in there.
Okay, great.
So if I'm listening to this podcast, and I'm a company, we're still in the dinosaur ages. We've got Excel everywhere across the organization, but I'm hearing all these things that you're saying about the benefits and what we could do potentially with Alteryx if we brought it into our organization. Where does a company, what is step one? If they're saying, I want to figure out how to embed Alteryx into our day-to-day processes, where do they start?
Yeah. Starting is always the hardest thing for a lot of our clients. And so the way we like to approach it is we look at the different processes that you're doing. What are the really big tasks that would be great to automate, but we know they're going to take a while? And then the second bucket that we focus on is what we call quick wins, or the low-hanging fruit. These are the tasks that it might take you 30 minutes to do and you do it once a week, but that 30 minutes could be automated in 10 minutes worth of work in Alteryx. So we like to start with those because those are the tangible things that take very little effort to produce a tangible benefit. Because if you're saving me half an hour every single week, that'll start to add up. People start seeing, hey, Alteryx can do this. Well, can it also do this? And it gets their gears turning. You're not trying to throw them into the deep end without a lifeguard, without a life jacket. You're teaching people how to swim, giving them one step at a time. And so you focus on those quick wins. You identify 10 quick wins. Let's go knock those out. And then let's start tackling these bigger obstacles.
I'm going to go a little off script here. Hayden, give an example of one or two of those quick wins that you've seen over and over again in organizations when you've implemented this tool.
I'm going to go back to GL mapping that I've mentioned a couple times because it is, I think, for a lot of us.
Everyone knows the manual manipulation.
Of course.
You've got your chart of accounts. How does it map to what you actually show on your income statement or your balance sheet? You've got that breakdown, that mapping every single time. You download it from your ERP. You know you're going to filter out your blank rows. You know you need to clean up the formatting. You know you want to round to the thousands. You know you want to filter for just a certain date range. All of these things, it's the same filters every single time. It's the same VLOOKUP every time. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, we can all do that in our sleep. But why should we if we can do it with Alteryx? That's 30 minutes back in my day. Plus, if you realize you downloaded the wrong GL time range, or someone makes a late journal entry, well, you just spent 30 minutes to spend 30 minutes again
to redo
the next day, which is so frustrating.
Yep.
Alteryx will do it. You press one button and it's going to run it in 10 seconds. And you can run it as many times as you want. And that it's going to take 10 seconds every time.
Well, in 30 minutes, as you're saying it, I'm thinking, well, 30 minutes once a month doesn't matter, but 30 minutes over the course of the year, right? That adds up. That's a days of time.
Yeah, and that's just me.
And that's just one employee.
You've got other employees that are also losing out on time across a large organization, exponentially it grows.
Well, so how many people do that same GL mapping that I did?
Right.
And people are doing the same task and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, of course. But I think the bigger thing is this tool, it sounds like, lets you get back to the things that we really enjoy doing, right? Which is the true accounting work that we've all fell in love with, the accounting and finance.
Analyzing the data instead of preparing it.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't go to school 5 years to be good at Excel.
Correct. But this sounds like a tool that truly elevates the decision-making capabilities for not only executives, but also the accounting level and middle level management folks.
Yeah. The democratization of data, of analytics, allowing people to get back to what we're good at, what we went to school for.
So I guess my next natural question is, who's performing, creating all the Alteryx workflows, processes at most organizations? Is it something that takes a lot of investment to upskill employees, and is that worth the investment, or are people bringing in consultants that have Alteryx experience to help embed these into their processes? Where do we go for finding who's actually can perform these functions?
Yeah, and it's all of the above.
Okay.
It's D. I came out of school with accounting degree, undergrad and master's, Big Four, CPA, no coding knowledge, no MIS degree, no IT degree. And I learned Alteryx at PwC while I was there, all self-taught through the community, real life application projects. And so that's my background. Now I do this full time. But there are other people that I work with. I'm upskilling a senior accountant, a cost accountant, assistant controller, teaching them how to do it because it has a learning curve. Every technology does, whether it's SAP, QuickBooks, NetSuite. We all have these technologies that we have to learn. But Alteryx leverages so much of the knowledge that we all already have because we're so good at Excel. And so it's learning by doing is a huge piece of it. But then we can also go in and do a structured training where we focus on this suite of tools can do X, Y, and Z. This suite of tools can do A, B, and C. And then the Alteryx community is an amazing platform for how do you do this?
Community forums, or
Yeah.
people are like, I've done this, or someone
Yeah.
proposes a question.
Yeah, so that is how I have solved a bunch of my client problems. Like, I need to do X, Y, and Z. I Google, how do I do X, Y, and Z in Alteryx? I can find 10 community posts in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
People have done it, or if no one's done it, I post a question, and within an hour, I normally get, hey, have you tried this? So it's a very organic idea, and then you take that big
Kind of mind-blowing to
concept.
think that people want to help other people.
I know, right? Like
In this
it's
day and
mind-blowing.
age,
Like people
right?
go out of their way
That's wonderful.
and spend their time to help
There
me.
is hope in humanity.
Yeah. And so that's how you solve it. And then you do that same thing internally where you create an internal cohort.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm doing this for this group. Has anyone done something similar? You leverage all of the resources at your disposal because I'm never going to know it all. You're never going to know it all. But together, we can know a good bit.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. Is Alteryx a skill they're teaching in college these days for accounting?
I think
and
they're
finance
trying to.
tracks, or is it too early for that?
I think they're trying to. There's a program called Alteryx Spark Ed. I don't know a lot about it, and this is not an official plug for it. But I learned about it at Alteryx Inspire when I was there a few weeks ago. And they're really trying to push Alteryx in college curriculum because employers are looking for that. It's becoming a commonplace skill. Used to be something like, hey, you know Alteryx? Well, you're already a step up. Now it's becoming more like Excel where you need to know it if you
It's
want a
table
job.
stakes to get in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, before it was the advanced Excel on your resume. Everyone was like, whoa.
Absolutely.
VLOOKUP, slow down here.
Don't even talk to me about a match formula.
Yeah.
XLOOKUP?
Love it.
So I guess kind of tangentially to Alteryx, we've talked about there's other advances in automation, and when accountants are thinking about like all the different ways Alteryx is saving time or maybe taking redundancies out of a process, is it rightful to be fearful that they have a sentiment that Alteryx may replace their position at the organization?
I think it's a rational thing to think about when you see technology coming in, especially with what we see in the world about that. And I want to reframe it as technology is there to help you do your job better because we're always going to need someone to maintain these workflows. The process isn't going to stay the same forever. And the company's going to need experts in it to continue to build out more processes. I think your job will change if you learn Alteryx, if you start adopting it, but it's going to change for the better. You're going to get more insight into the decision-making process. What is this data telling me? What do I need to highlight to my bosses, or what do I need to highlight to the teams under me? And it's going to give you back more time in your day to really go do the things that you haven't had time to do and grow your skill set. You're going to become a more valuable employee to the company because you're going to know Alteryx. I've heard so many stories of people getting promotions, raises because they've used Alteryx and they know how to find more information out.
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier in that is it fair for employees to be fearful that they might lose their job? I think sure, it's fair. However, this tool is going to allow those employees to get out of the mundane, day-to-day,
Exactly.
task-based
It's like a competitive advantage to show your work to the organization if you upskill to learn Alteryx, right?
And to be able to then take the data and actually perform an analysis on it and use your human judgment, experience, and knowledge as to leverage the information to make decisions for the organization in order to push it forward. That's what this tool is ultimately, the purpose of it, and the reason that you would want to implement this is to be able to take your people out of that mundane task oriented activities and put them in a forward-thinking, decision-making analysis perspective.
Precisely. And I heard a lot of stories about that same exact point at Inspire, which was awesome.
That's interesting.
And it's inspiring for me as a user to see that. It's like it gets me more excited about it. It gets me more excited to go help other people. Because at the end of the day, like I want people to succeed. I want them to be happy. And so if I'm helping them upskill, like that's a win on all fronts.
So I hear this though, Hayden, and again, it sounds like we found the golden egg. This is the tool that every organization should be implementing.
There's the auditor and him coming out as professional skepticism.
There's some of that, but it's how many phone calls are you getting? How many people are switching to this tool every day, every week, every month? I mean, are we seeing the traction and the growth for this tool and the wide acceptance across the business community, or are we still experiencing some sort of hesitation?
I think it's a mix of both. I am probably predisposed to see there's so much growth in it because I work in it on a day-to-day basis. But I think coming out of public accounting, especially in that realm of audit, like Alteryx can make auditable tasks easier because it creates an audit trail within the program itself. So if you think about how you filter something in Excel, you don't know what you're filtering out, right? It just disappears. Well, in Alteryx, I can see what met my filter criteria and what didn't. So it's augmenting that. Story. And I've heard stories of auditors are wanting companies to start implementing Alteryx into their processes because it makes the auditor's job easier. And I think as Alteryx grows, I think they're coming to this tipping point of widespread adoption. It's becoming so mainstream because people from my generation, we don't want to do mundane work. We want to go use our skills. We want to use our judgment.
Your generation, Adam.
I don't think that's either of y'all's, maybe.
Hey, yo.
But like, we want to go do exciting things. We want to think critically. We don't want to sit in Excel all day. Like, I don't think anyone does.
Right.
Yep. I think you're right.
Cool. So I guess maybe, with Alteryx, since how long have you been working in Alteryx now, would you say?
Fixing to be 4 years.
Okay. Which doesn't sound like a lot of time, but with technology, that could be,
It's 40 years.
It's 40 years, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think about Alteryx 4 years ago to Alteryx today, like, how has the tool itself, like, innovated or changed? I mean, I assume there's tons of new use cases and things being developed all the time. So how would you describe that, like, trajectory of innovation just within Alteryx itself?
Yeah. Within Alteryx itself, it's incredible where it's come in those 4 years. Every single release that they come out with, I believe they do 4 big ones a year. New tools, new features are being added to it every time. It makes my life easier. It makes it easier to bring data in. New data connectors, so new data sources externally, websites we can bring data in from. The functionality and the usability of the tools continues to improve as they get more user feedback. And then the Alteryx community really helps that grow because as more people start using it, I can go on and tell the Alteryx community, hey, I would love a tool that does this. It carries my rename through the entire workflow. Well, Alteryx is going to start thinking about how can we build that out? So my feedback is taken into account.
It matters.
And they're building to that because we're their user base. They need to help solve our problems, which they do great at. And then they've also grown through acquisition. They've acquired a handful of companies over the past few years and coming out with new additions. So they have a cloud software, all based in the cloud. You don't need an application on your computer. You just log into a website. That's huge. They have another tool called Auto Insights, which gives you a dashboard using machine learning to tell you, hey, revenue is up 30% this quarter, and it's mainly driven by your revenue in the country of Turkey because it's up X%. And then you can really dive into that and your narrative changes based on the data. And then they also have a machine learning program that is really easy to use. You don't need a data science degree to create a machine learning algorithm. And that's all within the past 6 months that they've come out with these tools, which is incredible. Like, it is just mind blowing. And then being at Inspire, hearing the other things that people are wanting to build, what they're talking about, they are pushing the bounds of what Alteryx can do for data, for analytics, for accounting. It's incredible.
Sounds like an incredible tool. Sounds like an incredible organization. You've got me sold on it. My final question, though, I've got for you, Hayden, is as you look into the future, where do you see accounting? What does the accounting and finance organization look like? And are we going to continue to see tools like Alteryx come out and be more prevalent and widely adopted?
I think my answer is going to echo a lot of what we've just talked about. I think you're going to see people coming out of school being able to use their degrees a lot earlier on in their career to make informed business decisions, to give their bosses, hey, this is what I'm seeing in this data and this is what it means. You're going to have more junior people within your company making decisions, giving you data that actually informs you rather than spending their entire time in the data prep situation. And we're going to have a lot more data. I mean, we all know data is growing. People are running out of space to store it. So as we figure out how to harness all of the data at our fingertips, we're going to be able to make a lot better decisions in real time and really understand, hey, why is AR aging growing? Like, you're going to do that through analytics, and that's how it's going to be. So we have to have people that know that. And so it's going to be up to people coming out of school or people within the workforce learning it. Like, Alteryx is an age agnostic tool. Anyone can learn it. It's never too late in your career to learn it. So
just kidding. I will eventually learn some of the basics. I'll sit down with you for a few minutes and you can show me the GL
You might regret
tricks.
that because those few minutes might turn into an hour because I can talk for a while.
Yeah. Well, hey, Hayden, this has been incredible.
Yeah.
I truly appreciate your time. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. I think really what I've learned is that Alteryx is going to be a key foundational tool for businesses as they continue to harness their data and make better decisions.
Exactly.
For the future, for their growth, and overall for their strategy for their teams. So thank you for your time.
Thank you
and
for having me.
Look forward to hearing more about this down the road.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you all for having me. This has been great.
Of course.
Excited to talk about things I like.
Yeah. All right. Well, in today's discussion there, I'd like to thank Hayden for enlightening us all and our listeners for keeping us up to date on the relevant accounting topics. Thank you for following along on another episode of Accounting Matters.